You are watching a KTVB special presentation, Decision 2025, the City of Nampa Mayoral Debate.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining us here at the KTVB studio. Joe Parris and Morgan Romero here with you for debate night, City of Nampa mayoral debate. Tonight we are hosting a debate with two of the four candidates vying for the position, and both candidates qualified for our debate based on long-standing campaign fundraising rules.
And tonight, we're going to cover topics ranging from public safety to the economy, infrastructure, and growth. And we'll hear each candidate's vision for the future of Nampa. Let's introduce you to those candidates now. We have Rick Hogeboom and Eric Myrick's joining us in studio tonight. Rick is currently the Canyon County Clerk. He previously worked as Chief of Staff for current Nampa Mayor Debbie Kling and served on Nampa City Council for 2 years.
And Rick is running against a fresh face in Idaho politics, Eric Myrick. Eric is an entrepreneur, runs the Elijah Rock Foundation, dedicated to advancing dementia research, and is also a professional jazz musician. Now, it's also a good time for us to go over some of the ground rules for the debate here tonight. This is a traditional question and answer format with opportunities for rebuttals and back and forth.
Our goal tonight is really to give each candidate the chance to explain their vision for Nampa's future in their own words. We want the candidates to exchange ideas and have a real discussion. So our message for the candidates, if you have something to say to your opponent, say it. We don't want any passive-aggressive comments. You guys can leave those at the door. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds for an opening statement and 90 seconds for a closing statement at the end of the debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer our questions, and then 30 seconds of rebuttal time might be granted as well. Again, we want this to be a productive conversation, so we will allow meaningful engagement beyond the mentioned time limits.
Let's get started with the debate itself. And the candidates, they pulled numbers out of a hat earlier this evening to determine who would give the opening statements. And Mr. Myrick actually selected number 1. Mr. Hogeboom had selected number 2. So we will start with opening statements from Mr. Eric Myrick.
Good evening. My name is Eric Myrick. I'm a husband, a father, a business leader, brain health advocate, and someone who's spent his life solving problems and serving people. As an entrepreneur in the media, entertainment industry, tech, and the nonprofit sector, I've scaled businesses, raised substantial capital, and built partnerships with real results. I've had the blessing of traveling on business to over 22 countries and all 50 states. So my perspective is broader and more in-depth than most. I have 2 wonderful sons, a 22-month-old and a freshman attending the College of Idaho playing football for the Yotes. My dad was a high school chemistry teacher who cared about people. My mother retired from Children and Family Services in Ohio, where I was born and raised, because she cared about people. I grew up in a Mennonite church and became a youth pastor because I care about people. My wife grew up in Idaho Falls and is the executive director of Avista Senior Living because she cares about people. Our Idaho nonprofit brings awareness to Alzheimer's and dementia because we care about people. All of who I am and my success centers around my service to people.
Thank you, Mr. Myrick. Mr. Hogeboom.
Hey, good evening. My name is Rick Hogeboom. I want to thank both of you and KTVB for hosting this important debate. As you did note at the beginning, I do know that there are 2 other candidates who are not present. Justin Buckholtz and Susie, they have both reached out to me and expressed some frustration about not being here tonight. I do respect KTVB's rules. I do want to acknowledge that when people go to vote, they will see 4 names on the ballot. And I do encourage the public to educate yourselves on all of the candidates running. I am a husband of approaching 24 years of marriage in January, and I'm thankful for our family. We have 5 children. 3 of them are adults. 2 of them are still minors at home, and we are also grandparents of a beautiful granddaughter. We moved to Nampa, Idaho in May of 2008, some 17 and a half years ago, because Nampa, Idaho was, based on our research, the best place to raise a family. The culture of faith and family and freedom is what attracted us to this community. And for the last 17 and a half years, our family has served in various capacities, from nonprofit work to public sector work. I look forward to having a meaningful conversation tonight as the people of Nampa make an important decision on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate those comments as well. As Canyon County Clerk, I appreciate the way you set that entire thing up. All right, well, let's get to the debate itself, and we'll start with Eric, and this will be a question for both of you. And I think at the core of this for voters, the prompt is why are we here tonight? Why are we doing this? Eric, for you, why do you want to be the mayor of Nampa, Idaho? What's in it for you?
I'm running as the people's mayor because, number one, Nampa is at a crossroads between the same old show and a forward-thinking Nampa. Number two, because many of our public servants have forgotten to whom they serve. Our founding fathers were citizen servants, and I'm getting back to that tradition. See, I bring a unique blend of career expertise not often found in politics. Entrepreneur, health tech founder, angel investor, media professional, nonprofit chairman, someone who has experience in managing budgets, raising capital, building coalitions, and bringing diverse teams together. Solving challenging problems. I'm a senior Atlantic fellow for equity and brain health from the Global Brain Health Institute, and I have the privilege of leading cross-disciplinary teams of world's top neuroscientists, neurologists, and innovators, advancing research and real-world initiatives that bridge data, science, and human experience. Our organization, the Elijah Rock Foundation, partners with Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Society UK. And through my award-winning career in media and entertainment, I've led national teams. But see, my career, my accolades is not about me, it's about you, the people of Nampa. My team and I have knocked on 6,000 doors in every precinct, made over 500,000 impressions on social media. So I'm not just talking about it. I'm actually showing you real time with data, innovation, and caring about you, the people, really means to me in my campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Myrick. Mr. Hogaboam, as Canyon County Clerk, you're in an elected position right now. Why look to transition to the mayoral position in Nampa?
You know, my public sector work began with the city of Nampa, running for city council back in 2017. I was encouraged and asked by friends to run for city council because we would have meaningful conversations in the community that about the local issues that were facing the city of Nampa. When I ran for city council in 2017, was elected, there were some non-negotiables that I prioritized then that are still the same guiding principles today. And one was public safety. The city of Nampa hasn't always experienced the level of safety and low crime that it experiences today. When you go back in the past, Nampa had many challenges, and they overcame those challenges with intentional law enforcement. I'm proud to have been elected on a platform of supporting public safety. We've added police officers over the years as a city council member, supported the addition, the implementation of CompStat, doing data-driven policing to improve policing. And when I had an opportunity to step into the mayor's office, I got a firsthand perspective to what makes the public sector work. And I want to come back to the city that I love, that I got to serve, and ensure that public safety stays prioritized, that streets are dealt with, and that our parks are safe and fun places to play for our families.
All right, appreciate it. We are going to move on to a broad topic now. We are talking growth and development. Nampa is the third biggest city in the state and growing faster than almost any city. And with growth, we know come a lot of challenges, from traffic to housing issues, infrastructure, but also this idea that you need to preserve Nampa's character and culture. What is your plan to manage growth responsibly while keeping the city livable for current residents? And we will begin with you, Mr. Myrick.
Well, you know, here's the truth. You know, the city of Nampa is directly responsible for fixing most of its roads that you drive every single day. So growth is a significant situation when it comes to our roads. You know, again, I've talked to 6,000 people out here in Nampa, and the first thing they say at the doors is, can we finally get around these roads? And they're right. I mean, I live in Nampa. I feel the bumps every day. So we need to make sure we address that. And one of the things I want to do is I want to make an accounting for how we got to where we are. So you can't move forward unless you make a reckoning of the past. How do we not prepare for 120,000 people that live in Nampa? We didn't just get here overnight. We didn't get from 50,000 to 120,000 overnight. So in my opinion, they're really brilliant people, but poor planning. So let's make an atonement for what we haven't done right, and then get to making a plan, working with planning and zoning, and let's chart a pathway forward. And guess what? There are people who live in neighborhoods who just feel like they've been completely left by the wayside. New developments, new roads, but my road, been here 20, 30 years, and I get no love. We got to put an end to that.
Do you worry that the growth has been out of control, or you feel like it's going at a good pace? And how would you as mayor sort of work with that?
I think the growth has been kind of unmitigated. It's kind of been unhinged. Yes, we need growth, but we need to grow smartly, in balance. Let's grow infill. How about we grow up instead of grow out? You know, rent is a big issue, but when you have more housing, then you have rent control. And guess what? We need more diversified units. We need more middle grade homes. I'm talking to families, you got 2 and 3 college educated kids living at home because they can't get into a condo, can't get into a townhome, can't get into a tiny home. So I want to work with developers and builders. Let's do that. Let's push on the developers, the 1%ers. Maybe they could pay a little bit more impact fees. How about we have a separate tax district for the new people coming in? Maybe they should pay a little bit more. We don't want to price our people out. So we got to be more smart, got to be responsible, and got to take care of our own.
Appreciate that answer. And Mr. Hogaboam, what do you think you could do to manage that growth responsibly? And I'll also add to, while maintaining Nampa's character.
Yeah, great question. Preserving quality of life is a central theme of my campaign. Time was up in the first question, wasn't able to get to that. But the growing growth can add many amenities and benefits to a community if you do it right. If you don't grow in the right way, you have to live with those land use decisions for the next generation and beyond. And so the way we grow is super important. Nampa is actually updating their comprehensive plan right now. And this is a great question and opportunity and platform to let the citizens know that there's several aspects that help guide the way in which cities grow. Even going back to Idaho's LUPA, the Local Land Use Planning Act, and how land use decisions, it could be a very mystifying topic to discuss. And in fact, right now, the comp plan is being updated. Area of impact is being submitted to the county commissioners for review. That's where the city's advertising where it intends to grow, how it intends to grow, what that growth should look like. I think all of these decisions are critically important. One of the things I want to address is House Bill 389 and other legislation that requires us to service growth without the full increment being added to the budget base. And we predicted years ago when I was in the mayor's office that this was going to create challenges, maybe not in the first year or the second year, but you're going to feel it in year 4 or 5, and definitely the longer it goes. And so I believe that we can address House Bill 389, also incorporate wise planning decisions in where we grow, how fast we should grow.
And do you agree with Mr. Myrick's in that we should be filling in, growing up instead of out? And there's so much farmland in Canyon County and surrounding Nampa. Yeah,
well, I think infill can mean 2 different things. So I think if I heard Mr. Myrick's growing up, that's more densified growth. Infill could also be pocket development in undeveloped areas in county enclaves, for example. It doesn't necessarily have to be denser than its surrounding uses. So I think compatibility is really important. People don't want incompatible land uses right next door to them. So it's important that we preserve compatibility, but also that we make sure. I'm not a big fan of what I call snake-like annexation patterns. And part of the challenges with transportation actually is Nampa is one of the most complex cities when it comes to jurisdictions. Not everyone knows this as well. So when I've been talking to citizens, we have Highway District 1, we have Highway District 4, we have Highway 45, we have Highway 55. You could go on. We have multiple jurisdictions, whether it's a highway district, whether it's ITD running a state highway through, and then a city street. And sometimes when you go down a stretch, a main arterial, you're hitting multiple jurisdictions. And so part of the challenge is also working with all of our partners that have jurisdiction over our infrastructure to make sure we grow in ways that make sense.
Yeah.
Mr. Hogaboam, I'm curious, you touched on something that a lot of current mayors have expressed frustration about, and that is working with the Idaho legislature. If elected mayor of Nampa, do you have, I guess, a specific plan or a concept that you would take to a committee at the legislature and say, this is what we need to do, this is what's not working, here as a leader, this is what I would see a better transition?
Yes, I think, great question. I think it starts with relationship building. And we're going to disagree on some issues, but we need to keep the lines of communication open with some of our local legislators. Just today, I spoke with several local legislators, and some of them were on transportation issues about how TECM, which is transportation expansion, mitigation, congestion funds from the state, and how they could connect. One of the transportation pieces that are a big priority is Highway 16. That's going to connect to Interstate 84, but we really need a connection point south of that and almost like a county byway that can connect to that, because there's going to be a lot of unnecessary traffic piling onto 84 to get onto 16 to move north. So these things, obviously, they cost lots of money. And so, again, knowing the jurisdictional boundaries over who runs an interstate to a state highway to the local roads and how all of that works requires conversations. When I was chief of staff in the mayor's office, I was worked diligently with our appointed staff, whether it's public works director, police chief, to advocate for legislative reforms across many issues, whether it's crime, combating crime, or dealing with transportation. We did get the governor prioritized a strategic initiatives grant, and we were awarded $10 million, which got split with Highway District 1. I'm proud of that work that I was able to do with our team, working with the governor's office, working with Speaker Mayoral. And so I have a track record of being able to work and deliver results, but it takes partnership and relationship with our local legislators.
And Mr. Myrick, as we highlighted, there are different backgrounds and different experience that you each bring to the table. Do you feel confident in your ability to go to the state legislature and work through that process? Is that something that you've had, I guess, hands-on experience with here in recent years?
I work with attorneys all the time. I do a lot of their work for them, so it brings down the bill. So absolutely not a problem. You have to sell a story. You have to compel people to think about things differently. We need to repeal House Bill 389. You know, we have something called House Bill 389, the circuit breaker property tax break for our seniors. That's hurting seniors because it was first based on your income. And then if your property value went up, seniors got kicked off. In regards to the state legislature, I think we need to be able to carve out a local option sales tax, to have the option. That 1% can bring us $8 to $10 million. We need that money. See, all the mayors, we need to come together and push against House Bill 389. It's basically a tax deferment. That doesn't work for our people. They're starving us out. And I'll speak truth to power. Let's turn the tide.
Appreciate that answer. Thank you both. A big topic of conversation recently that's been in headlines, and I'm sure you've heard from many residents of Nampa, is the Ford Idaho Center. So the Nampa City Council recently made the decision to convey the ownership of the Ford Idaho Center to the College of Western Idaho. How, as mayor, would you plan to lead this transition, and do you agree with the concept? We'll begin with you, Mr. Myrick.
Well, let's just be honest about the Ford Idaho Center. The decision to convey, in my view, is one of the poorest decisions in Nampa's history. We often talk about stewardship, about taking care of our taxpayers' money. They've invested in it. But were we good stewards of this precious venue that you, the people of Nampa, invested your hard-earned tax dollars into? I just don't think so. $25 million in deferred maintenance. So it may be a great thing to convey to CWI. But the question I have is, how did you get to $25 million in deferred maintenance? I call that neglect. And that's what people don't like. I'm talking to them out there on the doors. You see, my concern is the lack of transparency in the back end process. So not only did you waste people's money, but you wasted people's time with meetings when, in my opinion, you already knew what you were going to do, which was convey, which is what you did. So what I'm going to do, stop the nonsense and be honest with people. Be straightforward with people. Be truly transparent with people. I'm not a part of the bureaucracy. I'm not here to play those games. I'm here absolutely working for the people. And I think in this situation, the people deserve better.
If elected mayor, though, Mr. Myrick, do you have, I guess, an action plan or something that it would become your responsibility to deal with it? How would you handle that?
Well, we have to see what's going to happen right now, right? The trustees have to approve. So it's out of my hands. If the conveyance goes through, it's out of my hands. But going forward, there's ways in which I would be more transparent. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. From the very beginning of that process, I, as mayor, would have had CWI come out front, and explain to the people what intention they had for the venue. Couldn't find anything on the record. I mean, you have to scroll through articles. Yeah, I mean, people, weren't showing up to city hall meetings hardly. You got to go to the people. Another thing. We didn't really understand OVG's position, truly. What are the earnings 2 to 5 years? What are the projections that because supposedly they're starting to make money, right? We didn't really know that. Is the $25 million all of the $25 million due now? Or is it $3 million now, $7 million down the road in terms of the money to repair it? You see, it was an optics debacle in terms of communication. And when you're looking at people's hard-earned taxpayer dollars and their memories and all the millions they've invested in this venue, they are owed a greater deal of respect. And they didn't get it, and they know it, and that's how they feel. And I'm talking to them at the doors, and that's exactly what they're telling me. So I'm just relaying what I'm hearing from the people.
And Mr. Hogaboam, I understand you're at the county level at this point, but you did previously serve on city council and you did work for the mayor. Did you have any idea about this going on for the last several years? And to that point, what is your position on that conveyance?
Yeah, no, I think what's important for people who've been here a long time understand, look, why was that built? How was it built? It was built through an urban renewal district, which uses tax increment financing. So it pays back the original build out. Once an urban renewal area expires, that tax base gets transferred over to the city. And so the city does benefit significantly from revenue that was generated. Now the argument about urban renewals, would that development have happened anyways, or was it facilitated by a lot of the infrastructure that went in there? When I was on city council, one of the first decisions we made was whether to sell about 10 to 15 acres of the horse park, because there's interest from industrial development coming in from the east and potentially could have gotten several $1 million or more. But we had a late night city council meeting and went past midnight, and it became very clear that the public said, don't sell it to go get money, preserve it as a public asset and utilization. Up until that point, there's several election cycles where this has been an ongoing hot button issue, because a lot of the money that's been spent isn't just capital investment, it's to underwrite the operations. And so when you go prior to 2018, it was approaching $1.5 to $2 million of an annual underwrite. And so there were some changes made in venue manager, but when we made that decision to retain it, I think the public made it very clear that we value the footprint and its utilization, and they were okay with some level of city investment on that. So I think the bigger question is, from the public, and it's hard to get this sort of feedback, is to what degree are they okay with some level of underwriting? What sort of higher utilization can be realized? And when we talk about the deferred maintenance, the $25 million number that's thrown out, that was actually a Jacobs report that was CWI contracted for. So CWI was doing due diligence to see what its future obligations would be. Most of that $25 million is into the future over the next 10 to 15 years. So if the city were to retain it, if something were to happen, let's say CWI didn't accept it, I think we should explore some of the concepts that CWI has articulated, which is higher utilization with commercial, abutting Idaho Center Boulevard. There's a lot of other ideas that we can look at that can preserve its existing use and also enhance it.
But the problem is those ideas weren't fully fleshed out before they made the public announcement that they were going to convey. That's the problem, you see. That's the transparency that we're talking about. He makes some good points. But why weren't those points really flushed out before you made that announcement? That's what people have an issue with.
Mr. Hogaboam, do you agree with that perspective?
You know, a lot of the information as it came out, I do believe the city came out saying we're thinking about a solution, and a lot of people said that we didn't know this was a problem, because going back to that 2018 January meeting that went late, there was the public said we're okay with its use. The city of Nampa, the citizens that lived in the auditorium district, just approved last year an auditorium district. I know that there's some frustration because some of them thought it was being advertised as a way of generating revenue, and then it became a debate about whether it could only go to enhancements or can it go to capital maintenance on an existing structure. But the city of Nampa over the last few years has been advertising improved performance, record-breaking performances over the last year. Auditorium district passed. I think a lot of the citizens were thinking we're heading in the right direction, so this did feel like it was something out of left field, and it was a shocker. And there was an advertised solution, and a lot of the public said, I thought we were heading in the right direction. So I have encountered a lot of what Mr. Myrick's is referring to with, there's a lot of head scratching, and some might be okay with the eventual decision, but said, man, I didn't know there was an issue. I didn't know that the city was exploring this. I thought things were heading in the right direction.
Right. Very good.
Which is why you have to disseminate the information along the way so that people aren't, caught off guard.
Very good. Well, I think we'll move on to a topic that we touched on lightly, traffic and infrastructure. This is a great one. So traffic and congestion, it's one of the biggest complaints, and I'm sure you heard on the doorsteps. I heard, we all hear from the people of Nampa. Nampa's not unique in this. There's a lot of road work. If you drive through Nampa, there's certainly detours and things you have to deal with. You feel the bumps in the roads. Voters, though, they turned down a $38 million bond in 2024. So what do you believe is the balance in terms of raising taxes, which is something we've heard in this economy? People are against, of course. They voted it down. But while funding the needs of the city. And we'll start with Mr. Myrick's.
Again, I think that we should, consider trying to free up some money via a local option sales tax. I think people have to just come to a reckoning with the fact that we are so constrained. We just don't have the money to repair as quickly as we'd like to. So we have to find the money. And it is a very complicated situation. A 3% property tax, 5% for new construction. That really binds us. But here's a plan that I have. It's called Fix It First. I really think we should consider a Fix It First plan, which prioritizes repaving and pothole repair across older neighborhoods. I mentioned this earlier, and I'll come back to that again. A lot of people feel that their neighborhoods are being discarded. Those who have been here 20, 30 years paying their hard-earned taxes. I think for, new developments, maybe our builders need to support more infrastructure. See, one of the things that people have to understand with the chip seal, the way that works, is if there's a crater underneath and you chip seal on top, the underneath is still a pothole. So is our repair methodology even the best method? Let's look more into that. Temporary fixes, in too long, that same pothole has the same divot, and you're really back to that Barney Rubble experience we're talking about.
Mr. Hogaboam, rephrasing the question, how do you balance, a tax base that has been reluctant to approve multi-million-dollar bonds while knowing you need to pay for these roads?
Great question. That bond that was just last year, it fell short of the 2/3 supermajority that's required, but 57% of the people voted yes on it, but it fell short. So I think Mr. Myrick's and myself, either of us would be happy with 57% of the vote on Tuesday, because it would mean we're the winner of the mayoral election. However, that bond getting 57%, we call it a failure, but I think you have over half the people saying they are willing to pay some level of property tax to alleviate congestion. I call congestion a time tax, because the worse it gets, the more time you spend at red lights and backed up. That's time you're not going to get back in your life. That's time that could be spent with your family. That's time that could be spent at the dinner table. That's time that could be spent, coaching your kid, soccer and baseball. So that time tax is going to get worse and worse. And so I think we need to quantify what the improvements can be. If someone's willing to pay $20, $30, $50 a year, and you can get back minutes, hours over the year, then that trade-off might be something that the citizens look. But on that bond, I mentioned Highway 16. That's something that I think we need to work with our state partners to see if we can find a solution to that. I would focus on Marketplace. There was Marketplace improvements on that. Marketplace, and not all the citizens know this, is in an urban renewal area. And usually urban renewal, you lay the infrastructure, you hope the growth happens. I would say in this sense, Marketplace has become a victim of its success because the infrastructure, I'd say, is inadequate to accommodate all the growth. And so I would approach the Nampa Development Corporation, see if they would reconsider potentially spending some of the money, because they're getting way more money than they planned on, to invest in improvements on Marketplace rather than ask the whole city to pay for a bond, and also ask for some improvements in downtown to help smooth that. And there are some improvements coming from NDC. So, and then safe routes to school is another thing that I'd love to talk about, but I know the time's up. So.
And also that only applies to those districts, right? So there's a lot of other roads that need support. To his point, I think it is a situation that we have to ask our taxpayers, but we need to be really transparent. I think one of the things that I'm hearing at the doors is that, is the money going where we say it's going? Do we see the tangible results of the plans that we are executing? And I think we as the office, we need to be more transparent so that when we ask for these things, and if it were to pass, that we are incredibly good stewards and really involve the community, even more than we are. I mean, I'm not saying the current administration is doing a bad thing, but we can do even more to help people see where the money is being spent. Success, move on to the next. Because when you're good stewards of the money, then people will give you more.
Thank you. A topic that I know we hear from people all over the Treasure Valley, and we cover stories on this all the time, is this idea that roads are not built ahead of developments going in. So as mayor, could you and how would you change that process? I know property rights are very strong in Idaho, so this is a challenge always. We'll start with you, Mr. Hogaboam.
Yeah, great question. A lot of this has to deal with the jurisdictional challenges that I referred to earlier. So I'll just take one example with the time I have. There's a lot of discussion about the Southwest area plan in Nampa. Should Nampa grow by 10,000 residential units? That would be pushing west of Midway. I'll tell you, right now, Midway is mostly under Highway District 4. So let's say, when I talk about snake-like annexation patterns, you have lots of property owners that abut and have frontage on that, say, Midway. Let's say one small subdivision comes in that's abutting that. Of course, you're going to ask for improvements where they abut, where there's frontage, but it doesn't mean that you're asking that developer to fix the entire street to improve things that are outside of their jurisdiction. So part of the challenge you get is development patterns that are not consistent to cover the entire frontage of the whole jurisdiction. Now, if they annex into the city takes responsibility of that stretch of road or street, but then it shifts back into a highway district zone. And so when you have annexation patterns abutting frontage, it creates challenges. But our impact fees for roads and streets, Nampa has been a leader in collecting impact fees to do improvements, but to ask for exactions and improvements, deceleration lanes, right-of-way dedication, our engineers do a good job, but part of the frustration is you see some of these hourglass-like patterns or sidewalks that stop in the middle of nowhere. I'll tell you, that's a county enclave. The city has no jurisdiction over a county enclave, but this is what happens when annexation does not occur in one big fell swoop, and that's rare unless someone owns all that land and gets it all annexed at the same time. So part of the challenge when you have pocket developments is these challenges on infrastructure.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, in the future you'd like to maybe annex larger swaths of land at once.
There's a challenge there, and I've talked to a lot of the developers, and there's been a lot of talk about master plan communities, and cities love to see everything come in one fell swoop. The challenge is you're pricing out almost all of our local developers. The only people that can afford huge land acquisition and huge massive scale development are going to be out-of-state developers who are just view housing as really a commodity, not necessarily people who live here. So a lot of the developers who actually live here, they care about the quality of life here. They know no one's going to buy their houses if no one wants to live here. So we got to protect quality of life. And so I think the challenge is working with the highway districts to anticipate when annexation might occur. There's also other statutory things we can look at to see if the city can gain some, it's a little controversial, some jurisdiction over improvements, especially for curb, gutter, sidewalk. The safe routes to school issue is a perfect challenge because people say, why did the city allow sidewalks that stop to nowhere? Well, it's because that's stopping at a county parcel.
Right.
And that person might have no interest in ever annexing into the city. And so we don't have the authority to, to just force the sidewalk. We can approach them, do right-of-way acquisition. So part of the safe routes to school is to take this approach of, we're willing to buy some of your front lawn to continue this, but then that becomes a challenging issue as well because of the cost of money as well as the potential challenges of eminent domain and other challenges when it comes to property rights.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's convoluted. Mr. Myrick, same question. Some people complain that subdivisions and other development are going in before the roads are ready. How would you and could you as mayor potentially change that process?
I think Mr. Hogaboam took, almost 2 minutes on a very robust question. And I think he makes a lot of valid points in terms of the way the annexing unfolds. I think he's right, we have to work with County Highway District, Idaho State Transportation Department, and actually really sit down and carve a pathway forward that is just more efficient and more amenable to our constituents.
Moving on to housing and affordability, something that we have touched on here tonight, but specifically, I think everyone's well aware that housing prices in Nampa, they've risen dramatically, especially in recent decades. Many families are being priced out of the market. We know that there's now a philosophical debate in terms of, is renting better than owning a house? So a twofold question to you. Would you prioritize the people of Nampa owning a house and owning a home in Nampa, or do you believe that it's okay to have families renting and then moving on from Nampa if they feel like it's not a good fit? We'll start with Mr. Myrick. What do you think in terms of community physically buying in and owning a home?
Of course. I mean, my first condo was $75,000, and then, it gets you down that road. My freshman at the College of Idaho, I'm concerned. Can these young families, these young adults get into homes? Right now, no. Well, I'm talking to these families, 2 and 3 college-educated kids living at home. It's moving into a pandemic. So absolutely, we need to invest in our economy so that these kids can own homes. We also need to bring good jobs. Partner with our industrial partners to bring good quality paying jobs so that they can get into a tiny home, a condo, a townhome. We also have to push back against this idea of NIMBYism. NIMBYism meaning that your property value will go down if you have these other kinds of mid-grade housing options next to you. Actually, it won't, because your house is not evaluated based on a different kind of property, an ADU, right? We need to be able to expand our housing options. Ownership is so crucial to the American dream. And I want to see these young families, child care burden is overwhelming. So when you add that, how can you get into a home? How do you even save up for a home? So I have some plans on how we reduce child care burden as well, communal based. So, yes.
Mayor, can I ask a follow-up? As mayor, and if you're looking at city government at large, how can the city realistically make housing more affordable?
Well, we talked to the realtors and developers who all agree we need more of that middle grade product. And so there's a plan to already do that, which we're very excited to do. Again, it's a tough situation because of the cost of land, right? The cost of land goes up. Impact fees are turned around and put on the person buying the home, right? So it is a very hard situation to deal with. But when you have enough density, that's why the density situation is a practical solution, right? Enough density, hopefully the value is a tenable situation.
Mr. Hogaboom, to you now. In terms of prioritizing home ownership in Nampa, realistically, what steps do you think the mayor could make? And in your opinion, is home ownership, a must to be a part of Nampa?
I think it's preferred, not a must. We want accessible housing. There are some people that are transients that prefer the flexibility of living either month to month or in an annual lease, and certainly, but I think the American dream of home ownership is still a dream that we aspire to as Americans. And 50 years ago, the average home that was built was 3 bedrooms, about 1,400 square feet, and storage units didn't really exist. And the family unit was larger. And so I think there's been a societal shift with the commoditizing of the home mortgage, where there's this big disparity where there's incredible pressure to keep building multifamily housing or apartments, and then you have 4-bedroom, 2,000 square foot homes, and there's not a lot of in between. So we have created a situation where that leap from parents' house to apartment to a 4-bedroom, 2,000 square foot plus home is a big leap, a big jump. So we need to dignify what the middle housing market looks like, and I think part of it is a societal issue to allow more of that housing stock. I think earlier there's discussions about impact fees. If you make impact fees higher, then you're loading up more fixed costs on the home. So when we talk about housing affordability, it's kind of this, it's a balancing act, because the more we keep saying raise impact fees and charge developers, the fixed cost, the land value cost, as Mr. Myrick points out, it becomes so loaded, you're incentivizing the people to build bigger homes, because to sell a smaller home doesn't really give them the profit margin they need. So those are some of the challenges that we have to deal with in the policy that we control.
Do you believe the city should offer developers incentives for building affordable housing in Nampa?
I think I would want to know what you mean by incentives. I think, as I mentioned, how impact fees, for example, right now we charge fixed impact fees. It doesn't matter if you're building a 6-bedroom, 3,500 square foot house or a 3-bedroom, 1,300 square foot house. The national practice is to recommend a rate based on either square footage or bedroom. So while it might not be incentives, some of the low-hanging fruit, just from an equitable standpoint, would be, does it make sense for us to charge the same impact fee on a small home as a large home when we're telling the developers that we want that middle housing project? They're just saying it doesn't pencil for me with the land value costs and all those fixed fees. So I wouldn't call it incentives as much as making it a little more equitable, that the impact of a 2-bedroom house is very different than the impact of a 6-bedroom house. And so I think we need to address that possibly in the impact fee structure.
Yeah.
One of the things I would like to see, if we can spend $50 million at the state level for a voucher program, how about we take that same money and offer a tax credit to our first-time home buyers? I think that's a better use of capital.
You're referring to the education choice,
Yes.
the school choice voucher. Okay.
Absolutely.
You'd want to apply something similar to that to home ownership.
Yeah, the $5,000 voucher isn't moving the needle on a family that can afford that. It's a tax credit for the rich.
Thank you.
How about we support our young families trying to get into homes?
Yeah, thank you.
Transportation and regional connection, what do you think, Morgan?
Yeah,
okay,
let's get it.
That's great. All right, so we know many people, they travel from Canyon County, they travel from Nampa Monday through Friday to get to Boise for work. That's where it is. We could talk about the jobs available in Nampa coming up, but I think for starters, do you support some type of a regional transit system? And as mayor, would you be able to advocate for a way for the people of Nampa to get to and from outside of the city in a meaningful way and in a way that doesn't break the bank? We'll start with Mr. Hogaboom.
I think everyone likes the idea of regional transit, and it makes sense in densified cities, mostly east of the Mississippi, when those cities were built out prior to the automobile being really accessible. When you look at the way literally our communities have been laid out in the westward expansion, when the automobile was accessible, we've created a car-oriented society, and we make it generally convenient. But when you talk about traffic mitigation, people don't want to sit in traffic. So I think there needs to be propositional value, more than just viewing transit as more like a safety net. And certainly it does serve in that capacity for people who can't afford a car ownership. But if you're going to get the massive behavior to justify, because the investment is significant, it's super costly. So you need to have a ROI, a return on investment, and you need to be able to quantify what congestion have you mitigated because of users that are using the transit instead of being in their automobile. And I think if the data points in that direction and in the public and you're workshopping this and it makes sense, then I think the public would support it. But if you're going to spend lots of money for very few users, it's going to be a tough sell. So I wouldn't support spending money on something that's not going to be utilized.
So worth the research.
Worth the research, absolutely.
Mr. Myrick, same question.
25% of people in Nampa don't have a car, don't drive. There's a need. Comes back to the same issue that I have with proactivity, not being forward thinking, lack of vision. Same thing. How did we get to 120,000 people overnight? All of a sudden, we're going to be another 20, 30,000 people, no transportation. It's going to bite us. So we have to find ways to lean in to a future-ready Nampa. We have to expand awareness. One of the things I want to do is take the VRT on-demand program that helps our seniors get around. How about we add another component to that where we allow people to volunteer to help our seniors get around? You see, in the meantime, we're leaning on community helping community. So, yes, we need it. Yes, I will urge for it. But in the meantime, let's find ways where community can help folk get around. And that's just mobilizing and bringing people into more awareness of what the possibilities are.
Would you support committing city dollars towards alternative transit?
I would support it. Mm-hmm. But you have a council. Mm-hmm. So do I think that it would pass based on the leanings of our current council? Probably no. But the reason why I would support it is because of leaning in to the city. At the same time, you have to respect the opinions of our voters. And Mr. Hogaboam just shared what it takes to get things passed when you put it forth to the people.
Yeah.
Just a brief follow-up. It's not a rebuttal. Very good conversation. I appreciate the questions. I think I mentioned west of the Mississippi, east of the Mississippi. I think Mississippi is the only state besides Idaho that doesn't actually, at the state level, send any money into mass transit. So, this is a bigger conversation. I think it is a big ask when you're asking the city to try to pick up the funding when there is no additional funding. Now, I know Elaine Clegg, the director, does a great job in trying to secure some federal money, but between the federal money and the city match, there's not really state money that's being pulled in that. So I think the bigger conversation is multiple jurisdictions need to see the value and need to join in together. And if it becomes the burden is more on the city, it does become a big challenge because it becomes costlier because the city's picking up more of that burden. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some community-based questions. And as the mayor of the city, you would be asked to lead and navigate difficult social conversation. We saw this in recent years with Nampa Mayor Debbie Klink. The Canyon County Pride Festival has been hosted in Nampa the past 2 years. Soon-to-be retired Nampa Mayor has been quoted in a press release saying, quote, that while the event didn't reflect her personal beliefs, the advice of the city's legal counsel was that it must recognize the protected First Amendment rights of those involved. As mayor, if you're elected, we'll start with Mr. Myrick. How would you plan to handle the likelihood of a continued community debate about Canyon County Pride Festival being hosted in Nampa?
Well, let me ask you a question. Are they tax-paying citizens? Yes, they are. Would I be okay with any kind of inappropriate behavior that compromises children? Absolutely not. So within the guidelines of their right and making sure that there are guidelines around public display and decency, then my take on it is, why not?
Thank you.
Mr. Hogaboam, same question. It's a difficult community conversation. We understand there are strongly held personal beliefs that are at stark contrast of each other in Nampa.
Yeah, well, public space belongs to the public, And the First Amendment is a precious amendment to all of us as Americans. And we need to defend the right to disagree. And the public space is sort of, it's that co-op, it's that negotiated space where whether it's a Charlie Kirk or whether it's a Pride Festival, people of very different views should be able to occupy public space without threat of violence or danger. Now, when it comes to that, the Pride Fest in Nampa, which I didn't attend, but I know that there's lots of concerns, and I appreciate Mr. Myrick's pointing out, we need to be, it's in a park, and parks generally are oriented towards a safe place for children. If there's hyper-sexualized content, and how reflective pictures of things that happen in Boise are of the prevailing culture of what was taking place, or if it was just isolated, there's legitimate concern of parents who might, it's not necessarily an objection based on religious or philosophical concerns as much as what exposure do my children have at the park. So I know in the first year, there were, I believe, transgender females, men with female breasts there's pictures of them exposing their breasts with the middle finger salute to people, and this was observed in the general public. So the state legislature had to go ahead and clarify what obscenity is, and there are obscenity laws where the First Amendment does not mean the right to over-sexualize children with content that we deem to be of mature content. So I think where that line is drawn is we got to be very careful to protect our children from content while at the same time being vigilant in defending the First Amendment and public space being for everyone.
Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to some quick takes. And just in terms of transparency, Mr. Myrick, you are slightly behind on time. So we're going to give you this first question here. What's a thing right now that you really like about the city of Nampa that you would maintain as mayor?
Oh, wow. I really love our downtown. I really love what it's about to become. I'm so excited about leaning in to the vision of the downtown implementation plan, working with Robin Sellers Economic Development. Downtown has so much potential. I'm really excited about the Civic Center, finally making that venue some money. Really excited about all of the activities that happen at the Hispanic Cultural Center.
What's one thing you would change on day one if elected?
Day one, how we communicate. You know, it's 2025. Are we really using social media to connect with our constituents? We've knocked over 6,000 doors. We have more yard signs from first-time voters than maybe ever. That's incredible. Engaging civic duty. So the first thing, let's get this budget underway. Let's set a plan for roads. Let's set a plan for our downtown. You got to have someone who can sell the vision and the brand of Nampa, a forward-thinking Nampa. Really excited about establishing an ag and health tech corridor. Let's be known for something special. Let's leverage the infrastructure, the human infrastructure of CWI and NNU. So much talent. What are we doing with these kids? All the ingenuity. So there's a lot to do, but I think right now you really have to have a mayor who unifies what seems to be a disjointed Nampa.
Appreciate it.
So in terms of transparency, we're short for time. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to closing statements, and if time allows, we may be able to ask one quick question at the end. Again, Mr. Myrick had selected the first position. He had the first remark, so he will now have the first closing statement. Mr. Myrick.
I'm running to be your next mayor because too many of our public servants have forgotten to whom they serve. And one thing is absolutely true. Everything that challenges Nampa right now is the result of prior leadership's failures, lack of imagination, initiative, honest transparency, and thought leadership. I'm here to change all that. My opponent, a good guy, but he's a product of the old past, a stagnant system he's been part of for years. I know you're sick and tired, folks, of the growing pains of an unhinged growth that my predecessors haven't been able to tackle. I feel your pain, the lingering distrust. After speaking to 6,000 Nampa residents, you all say the same thing. No mayoral candidate has ever come to knock on my door and hear what I have to say. our Hispanic community saying, thank you for caring and listening to our pain regarding the Wilder raid. I'm here to address the big issues and the small ones you only hear at the doors and in the community, like the woman I met in a wheelchair, sitting in 100-degree heat at the bus stop by the downtown post office. I asked her, what could I do for you as your mayor? She looked up, tired and forgotten, and said, a covering would be nice. It's going to get cold soon. Lady, I'm going to get you that. I'm going to get you that covering. You see, I'm here to make our roads better, improve our infrastructure, build a strong commercial industry that brings good-paying jobs. I'm here to spur more attainable housing options for our seniors and young families. I'm here to turn the page on Nampa, new leadership with vision. I'm here to make sure that everyone is included in this great city.
Thank you, Mr. Myrick. Mr. Hogaboam, your final closing statement.
Yeah, listen, it would be my honor to be the next mayor of the city of Nampa. I want to defend to some extent what's been referred to as stagnant. Nampa has been a leader when it comes to policing with the implementation of CompStat, as well as the Real-Time Crime Center. It has been a leader in infrastructure with the traffic intelligence system. It has been a leader in the entire region when it comes to wastewater, which we don't call it wastewater now, it's water renewal facility, and I'm proud to have supported that when I was on city council and then to see it to fruition. Nampa has literally been a leader when it comes to policing, to the way we treat our water resources, to how we've implemented impact fees to help build out Midway Park and Brant Park, almost entirely funded by new development. Nampa has implemented impact fees for utility impact fees, a leader in the state. Nampa has been repeatedly recognized for its performance along many lines. Now, does that mean mission accomplished? No, there's more work to be done. I'm seeking the office of mayor to continue the work moving forward and upward to improve the public sector management of the city of Nampa so that we can continue to be a safe community, improve traffic, have great parks for our families to play in, and have a transparent government that leads with humility. And I appreciate your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both for your time here this evening. We are about all out of time, so we are going to have to wrap this up. I will say that we really appreciate the exchange of ideas. I think we learned a lot tonight from the candidates. Again, as the current Clerk of Canyon County, Rick Hogaboam, had pointed out, there are 4 candidates on the ballot. 2 of them joined us here tonight. We wanted to make sure we did include that fact. Morgan, I think the next step would to preview tomorrow. We will have a debate for Garden City.
Yep, 2 candidates running to replace a long-serving mayor in Garden City. They will be debating here at KTVB Studios again at 7 o'clock on KTVB+, KTVB.com, and our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us.